There's nothing quite like being out in nature and photographing wildlife, birds in particular for me. And in that moment when you see a species for the first time, or you get your lifer as it's more commonly known, there's something just so magical about that. It feels like you're almost discovering the animal for yourself. But how do you make your photos as epic as the moment is for you? All right, it's time to get serious about this bird and let's go. It's cold fashion. I'm in the Everglades National Park in Florida, a birder's paradise. And in this video, I'm gonna give you a few tips to how to take your average photos and get great ones all the time. Oh, and a personal mission for myself, I'm trying to find the painted bunting as we walk around this park. So fingers crossed, we do see one at some point. It's not, they have like a very like songbirdy call. But to photograph birds, you have to find them. And that is easier said than done, especially when some birds that you're looking for might only be a few inches big. Blue-gray gnatcatcher, another gray bird. And they're tiny. They have a really loud call. There it is, it just flew off. Luckily, in this day and age, we have technology on our side. So two apps I absolutely recommend you downloading is Merlin ID and eBird. These are fantastic apps and will definitely help you on your journey in finding the species that you want to in the area that you're traveling to. There's a kingfisher just on that perch. I need to go on eBird as well when we have signal and see what's been seen here in the last 7 days. In eBird, you'll be able to see birding hotspots where you are, and it will show you what species have been there in the past 7 days. And this is all crowdsourced, so it's other users of eBird reporting what they have seen themselves. I've seen a spoonbill in the lake, but maybe we can see him. Then once you've found the species that you want to photograph, go into Merlin ID so you can learn more about them. So for example, I want to know more about the painted bunting. So if I type that into Merlin, wow. So we have a chart and that will show you where it's expected to be. So right now it says, this gives you a whole description. I won't read it all, but basically it's telling you that we have a combination of a rich blue head, a bright red underparts, and a lime green back. Those are on the male birds. So we know that the brightly colored ones are the male birds. It then tells you that where it migrates. So in the winter, we migrate to South Florida and the Caribbean, beautiful. But the large and western population is actually in western Mexico, migrates from Texas. So we are looking for a smaller population. That's why they are rare here in South Florida, but they are here. And then it also gives you these sounds, so their calls and their song, so you can know what you're listening for when you're out on the trails. Very rare northern cardinal. We got excited then. Now this is a bit of a contentious subject whether you should use playback out in the field. I would use it when you're at home before you go out so you can learn it to what you're listening out for. That's the northern cardinal. But doing it out in the field to try and attract birds is not that great, and it can affect their natural behavior, which we don't want to be doing. We don't want to be disturbing the wildlife. So when using the calls, use them as a resource for planning, not as a tool to bait wildlife out in the open when you're out in the field. Grey catbird again. Do you think birds have accents? Like, do you reckon like these sound slightly different to the ones in New York? I reckon they might, you know. Merlin gives you a ton of information that will help you guesstimate more when you're out in the field and hopefully give you more success. So I know what a painted bunting looks like. I know where they'll be at what time of year. And I also know they like to be on exposed high perches at the edge of the pond or in the edge of a forest shrubbery. And one came out. Right next to you. I know. But like this is, I'm gonna play it close to the microphone. Can you hear that? Yeah. So it's not an exact science and you're not guaranteed to find one of these, but having all of this information will help you be more successful in the long run. We're looking for an orange crowned warbler. Oh, and he just flew off right there. The small birds like a warbler are so hard to photograph because they're so fast, and that one was all yellow. So in this sea of, but not bright yellow, so in this sea of green leaves, he blends in perfectly. So even if you do find him, you probably have half a second to find him in the viewfinder, get your composition right and focus to take the shot. So if someone's got an incredible shot of a warbler, I respect them as a bird photographer. I know I said that in another one, but I stand by it. Another tricky thing to do is being able to spot a bird in a tree when there's a bunch of foliage around. So there's a couple of things you can do here. First of all, when you hear a bird sound, we're not very good at pinpointing where something is through their sound, but it does give you a general direction. So once you find that general direction, pick a vast area of the tree that you're looking at and give it a really soft gaze. Don't look too closely at anything, try and spread your gaze as wide as you can. And then observe how the trees and the branches and the leaves move in the wind. And then you'll start to notice movement that goes against the natural wind movement. And that's usually a bird jumping from a branch or rustling its feathers or something like that. And hopefully that'll help you get that one species off your life list that you've been looking to find. But if you do go out intending to see a certain bird and you don't find it, don't feel down. Birding is my favorite pastime, and even if I've set out to see something and I don't see it, I'll see some incredible things on the way, take a few beautiful landscapes, and even then, I've had a great day. It's much better than staying inside.
The spoonbill's right here.
But I know you've clicked on this video to get some photography tips. So starting off, the most important thing when photographing birds is lighting. And to get the best lighting, we're gonna be out early morning at sunrise and late at sunset. And this just happens to coincide with when most birds wake up. So you not only do you get incredible light, you get the most bird activity. We're about to head over to a beach where we have a flock of American white pelicans. Now these birds are huge. They have a 9-foot wingspan. So I'm really hoping that we can get one of those in flight. There's probably about 100 of them right now. We can see them, they're far away, but we can still see them. So fingers crossed we get one flying in this beautiful morning light, nice and low to the ground. So we are getting closer to the American white pelican, and because they are white and we're in this nice morning light, they are glowing essentially. You also want to place yourself between the sun and the bird to give you the nice, soft, even spread of lighting, because if the sun is behind the bird, they're going to get really backlit. Now, a silhouette is a great option, do not get me wrong, but if you want to show off the color of the bird that you're trying to photograph, then you want to get that nice, even lighting, and the best way to do that is to place yourself between the sun and the bird. And if it's not possible to get between the bird and the sun, try putting the sun at a 90-degree angle, because then you'll get that nice dramatic lighting where half of the bird's face will be in shadow. Those are also really great options. Another thing to consider is an angle that you're shooting from when you're photographing birds. So I'm low to the ground right now because I want to make sure that I get a reflection of the bird, because I want to make him bigger in the frame. And I want to make sure that we're in his world so we can kind of be on his level. It's just so cool to see. And we're getting a nice reflection. I'm putting him in the middle of the frame, the waterline in the middle of the frame, so that he's above it and his reflection rope to get a nice bit of symmetry. And if you want to get really fancy, try some color theory. So for example, if you're shooting a red bird, try get some green in the background, so then that bird will really stand out in the frame. And what a cool bird. Unfortunately, we do have these dead trees in the background. I would like maybe to get a bit of green. So I'm hoping he comes over to the right, because then, bit of color science for you there, guys. Pinkish red on a green background, opposite colors. It is, again, also a really stark contrast. Oh, he's walking over, come on. Do it in your cool spoonbill. So we've got 2 ospreys in the nest, which is just incredible. I'm on the 150 to 400 from OM. And this is the full frame equivalent of a 300 to 800, but we also have a 1.25 teleconverter built in So we have a full frame equivalent of 300 to 1000. So we're still giving these guys plenty of space, but we're able to get so close to get those really tight portraits. And just being able to kind of shift your vantage point, maybe shoot up to make the bird look a bit larger than life, makes that shot that little bit more interesting than kind of just shooting at eye level and kind of just, oh, there's the bird, boom. Another thing to consider to add depth to your image is to add a foreground element. Now you can do these with a larger object like a tree or a bush, as smaller things may get lost in the source, especially at these long focal lengths. One thing that I was able to do is we have a bunch of the dead trees in the foreground from where the osprey was sat. So I was able to use those dead branches as a frame within a frame to really draw the audience's attention into the osprey, and just waited until it looked directly at the camera, snapped that shot. Although I have the 150 to 400 and it's really tempting to constantly be zoomed in to get those close-up portraits, it's also kind of nice to get an environmental portrait of the bird. Especially if you're going to show these in a set, it might be an idea to get context of where you saw that bird. So right now, osprey's in its nest, which I can't believe we found, and it's sitting on this beautiful tree. So I'm still pretty zoomed in, but I'm out at 150. So I'm using the middle trunk as a leading line to the osprey, and I'm having that sit at the top of the rule of thirds, just to kind of give a bit of symmetry and just kind of tell the audience where their eyes should go. And I do have the 50 to 200 in my bag, which I'm tempted to change to, but then as soon as I drop my camera, I know it's gonna fly. So I'm a little nervous, but I might do that. Now, all of these things are definitely easier said than done, I do know that. But once you do get a photo with a few of these elements in there, you really will fall in love with the results that you get. Now, despite our best efforts, well, I say our best efforts, my best efforts, I haven't seen the painted bunting. Sam and Hunter on the crew, they claim to have seen one. They were really excited about it. They didn't get a picture of it, and I wasn't there, so did it really happen? I'll let you decide. But I'm not down. I still saw rosette spoonbill. I saw ibis. I even saw the great white American pelican, 9-foot wingspan. Truly crazy. Wasn't expecting to see that out here. I saw so many birds, and I'm out in nature looking for birds, so I've still won. Would I have loved to see a painted bunting? Yes, but that just gives me an excuse to come back again. So painted bunting, this is not over. Now, hopefully this has given you enough information to really help you get that image that you've dreamed of the bird of your dreams. But if you already have that shot, please let me know in the comments what bird it is that you wanted to photograph and where it is that you photographed it. I would love to hear that in the comments. But in the meantime, my name is Matt. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.